Avalonians, it is finally time to sell. I have a very interesting story for you. Till the age of about 18 or 19, I was a poor salesman. I would argue that even after I sold my company, I was still a very poor salesman in the sense that I just didn't know how to sell well. I didn't know the techniques. I was pretty much winging it at that point, right? It wasn't a formalized technique. I didn't know how to do it at scale. And I would say that a lot of what I did happened accidentally or happened just because of sheer luck or because I was just reaching out to a few people, but I wasn't reaching out in a methodical way. I wasn't doing it in a way where other people could. And because of that, I was the only person selling in my teams, right? So in this video, we're going to learn what sales is and what you should be prepared for the rest of this course. And the basics part of the sales course on Meta is free. And it's just that there's so many things you're going to learn over the next few episodes that it would be advisable for you to write some of this stuff down, but also practice. Sales is something where once you get one or two sales and you understand the process, then you can just deep dive and do it, for 100 or 200 sales. Whether you're a freelancer, whether you're somebody looking for a job, whether you're somebody that's, running a 100-man company, it doesn't matter. Sales is important. And usually in my companies, I have about at least 5 to 10 people selling all the time, right? Today, we get a lot of inbound. We get a lot of people reaching out to us for stuff, but you still need a sales team and you still need people doing hardcore sales, even if you're a B2C company. And I'll come to why even B2C companies need sales. But in this process, more or less, you're going to learn how to do business to business selling, right? So without much further ado, let's get started. Okay, Sales 101. Welcome to brutality. Sales is the most brutal role in the business world. Rejection rates for most sales reps are 95% and above. I'd actually put that number at 99%, but I was asked to be conservative, so 95% is a conservative number. At the micro level, sales is the ability to influence people, and at the macro level, it's about data science. And we'll come to all of this in a bit, but this is what it's about. The commission model. Most top sales reps are paid a base salary, and then they get commissions on each sale. They get 10% of a sale or 20% of a sale. The commission model allows sales reps to theoretically make a ridiculous amount of money, but are dependent on performance. They are as close to entrepreneurship as you can possibly get, right? Sales are mini entrepreneurs. Any sales rep is a mini entrepreneur. Most great CEOs are salespeople, right? And I would say I used to be an anomaly in that when I was younger, but then I suddenly turned into a sales-based CEO because it is important. It's probably the most important thing. While sales can be useful for B2C products in certain instances, it is usually employed in B2B situations. Now, one thing I want to kind of mention is that when I was, I think 20 years old, I was told about a particular type of sales rep known as an oil slick salesman. These are the people that, they dress very sharply. They have, their hair slicked to the right with oil in the US. And what they do is they take a startup and they go and they sell the entire company to a bigger company, right? Or they take a startup and they do financing with that startup with a bank, right? They get commission on that deal from both the startup as well as the bank or, the venture capitalist involved. And, usually they end up making millions of dollars for one meeting. Usually the first meeting, they make the introduction and then they're gone and they make maybe 1 or 2% of the deal. Now, I don't generally like these people, but for later stage startups, these people are sometimes necessary. They're known as investment bankers. But investment bankers, especially the good ones in the US, some of them work just 2 or 3 days an entire year. Just 2 or 3 days of the year, these people go out and make the sale. They make these connections. They built a brand over time. And that's it. They're making more than somebody would make in 10 or 15 years in 2 or 3 days. You can only do that in a sales role. Sales people make outsized returns, but they also sometimes make nothing, right? So in this, we're going to learn all the techniques required to make as big a return as possible. And then I'm going to expect you guys to use it in creative ways. The bread and butter of sales is something called a pipeline, a set of leads that are likely to convert into paying customers. So as you can see here on the left, it's just how a pipeline looks. You have some people in the qualification stage, and we learn about what all of this means, but there's some people in the qualification stage. Maybe you got meetings with some of those people. You sent some of those people proposals after you had the meeting, and then maybe 4 people are about to close, and then you have a few people that have actually closed. Closing means the person has signed the contract. The key attributes of a sales pipeline are the following: number of leads, average size of the deal. You might have a deal that only pays you $200 if it closes, and you might have a deal that pays you $2 million if it closes. The ratio of closes to losses, which is maybe I had 50 meetings and 5 of them ended up closing and 45 of them ended up just failing. It went nowhere. Those people didn't respond to me. That's a loss. The sales velocity, which is how fast you go from a qualification to a close. Right? If your sales velocity is low, which is if you're able to go from qualification to close in 5 or 6 days, that's awesome, right? You will be able to scale that insanely. Sometimes the qualification to close takes years. That's also okay, especially if you're selling enterprise deals. We're going to learn about all of this in a bit, but this is just an introduction video. So a little more about the pipeline. This is a screenshot from, I think, a tool called Pipedrive, where you have maybe 80% of the deals you qualified. You had meetings with some you sent the proposals, some accepted the terms, some won. So as you can see, out of 100% of the deals that you had, only 33% of the deals are won, right? And this is how a typical pipeline looks. So there are many different types of sales, like I mentioned. The way to split the sales arena is in this way. You have some sales that are high ticket sales, which is they are above anywhere between $5,000 to $100,000 per year. Sometimes it will go up to millions of dollars per year. Then you have low ticket sales, maybe under $5,000 a year. That could be $5 a year, or it could be $100 a year. You could be selling a product or service, it doesn't matter. And from the left to right, you have low touch, which is self-serve, which means the velocity is anywhere between 1 week to 2 months to close the deal. And then you have high touch. High touch, touches are the number of times you meet somebody or you call them, right? In high touch, these are known as enterprise deals. It takes anywhere between 3 months to 18 months to close a deal, which means you need to have at least 10 or 15 or 20 meetings. And as you can see, I've mapped out some companies that do high touch enterprise at low ticket size, and you can see, SAP and Salesforce are there. And then on the higher side, you have companies like DLF and Byju's. DLF, for example, sells real estate. That's incredibly high touch. It's high ticket. And then on the low touch side, you have things like Razorpay and AWS that are high ticket. And the reason something like AWS is high ticket because it sells quickly. So you're able to sell, cloud services quickly. People convert very quickly, maybe in a week. But then over time, as that company gets bigger, they might end up paying you hundreds of thousands of dollars as they get more and more servers. Razorpay is a payments gateway. You can get it quickly. Maybe in 1 or 2 weeks, you might want to start using them. But then over the years, if you get big, they take a 2% transaction fee. So they end up charging you a lot at the end of the year. And on the other end, in the weakest end, you have the low ticket size, and then low touch, which means that it closes quickly, but it also doesn't pay well. But these companies also do well because they go after volumes. A lot of people use their services. So because it's low touch and it takes a very short amount of time to close, you have a lot of people that use those products. And these are usually called self-serve products, because you don't need too many sales reps to go and make the sale, because people come to your product or your platform by themselves, and then they convert by themselves. Customers come by themselves. So there's not too much of effort gone in having a conversation with those customers. So you rarely sell to a company. People have this idea that it's some company, it's Google or Facebook that buys another company or buys a product or service. That's not true. There's no such thing as selling to a company. Not all people in a company can make decisions. So think about it, right? When Facebook decides to buy a product, maybe, a $30 product, who makes the decision? Is it Mark Zuckerberg himself who comes and says, yes, we're going to buy this product? Or it's somebody lower down? Usually you will be able to find 1 or 2 or 3, a group of decision makers who make the decision to buy a product. If Facebook is buying another company, maybe it's buying Flipkart, or Facebook's never going to buy Flipkart, but if it was buying Instagram, the decision maker would be Mark Zuckerberg, because it's such a big deal. It's a very, very high ticket deal. It's billions of dollars. Whereas if Facebook's buying a $30 product, then Mark Zuckerberg's probably not going to be involved. It's going to be some sales rep somewhere if it's a sales product. But if it's something that costs maybe $2,000, then maybe it's a vice president somewhere that takes a decision. It really depends on which company and who's taking decisions at which level. So you sell to decision makers in the company. You're selling to something called a decision maker. It's very important to remember. And when I keep using the word VP, I mean vice president, right? Which is usually one step below the CEO level. Different products have different decision makers. A marketing product will involve the vice president of marketing, for example, or the chief marketing officer. So these titles are essentially made up, right? And the industry has just taken some standards. But usually it's either the VP of marketing or the chief marketing officer who takes a decision for a slightly expensive marketing product. But if it's a very cheap marketing product, maybe one of the junior marketers might take the decision too. It really depends on the company and their policies. Most purchase decisions in a company, especially when they're buying a service or a product, are group buying decisions. It's not one person who takes the decision, it's multiple. But one person signs off on it. That's the important thing to remember. So, next thing we need to understand is the idea of channels. Sales is generally about having one-on-one conversations or meetings with somebody. If you want to sell, you're presenting to maybe 2 or 3 people, but at the end of the day, the decision maker, even if it's 3 people who made the decision, one person signs off. So it's about impressing that one person and then the group of people that he or she uses to make decisions. There are many different ways you can find decision makers and sell your products. So you can go out and find decision makers in hundreds of different ways, right? And we're going to talk about all these ways. These ways or these methods to find these decision makers are known as channels, right? Finding the right person to target on the right channel with the right messaging and closing that deal is the goal of sales, right? This is what we're going to learn throughout this course, and that's what I'm here to teach you. So I hope you guys are as excited as I am to go through the sales journey. Catch you on the next episode. Bye-bye.